Hello everybody and welcome back to Ballads at Midnight, the story of a weird crazy vampire and a equally crazy bard, I guess. Well, we're gonna go see where this all leads as we creep through the estate at night. There's no problem. It's all fine, no problem. Nothing to worry about. This is fine. I don't know what you're talking about. The vampire hasn't shown himself since our earlier squabble, though his absence does little to assuage. Is it assuage? Assuage? I never can remember how to pronounce this properly. My nerves. I swear this game in particular is it just uses all the words, and it's like, wait, but how does this actually work? Anyhow, as any prey animal knows, the deadliest predator is one you don't see coming. Exhaustion weighs against my eyes, but adrenaline keeps me on edge, pulsing through my veins like a heavy drum. The slightest shift of wind-blown curtains makes me jump. I keep expecting those moonlit eyes to be watching when I turn. But the shadows are always barren, devoid of vampires. Does he truly mean to sulk for the remainder of the night? I suppose I should count my blessings while I can. As I explored, I noticed how each successive chamber is spotless and immaculately tidy, aside from the furniture I disturbed, which I take the time to straighten. I uncovered an abundance of books crowding the shelves on various surfaces. They contain an array of technical topics, including geography, astronomy, invocation, and mathematics. They're all dog-eared and full of notes. Don't tell me he's read every book in the estate. I can't panic yet. I can still narrow this down. Assuming he takes the time to clean his most frequent spaces, I ought to pay attention to what is and isn't covered in dust. Yet, even locating a single cobweb presents a unique challenge. I set a book down, running my hand across the marble exterior of an engraved fireplace. Even this is pristine, unmarred by old ashes and licking flames. The nearby fire iron, at least, is an encouraging sight. I pick it up to give it a gentle swing, testing the weight, and wince when my arm throps in protest. I'll have to remind myself to use my non-dominant hand. The fire iron has a dull tip that is unlikely to pierce skin, but a decisive strike should send anyone reeling, even an immortal creature of the night. Of course, pissing him off by whacking him in the head is a last resort. I'm more interested in jabbing the fire iron into the ledge outside and using it as a handhold to climb my way up. The idea may sound absurd, but it could work. I won't know until I try. Although, even if I successfully scale the ledge, I still have to defeat the moat somehow. My gaze wanders across the chamber. If someone is wealthy enough to build a castle, they usually enjoy surrounding themselves with larger-than-life portraits. One would think that I'd found a big enough painting to pry off the wall and right across the moat by now, but the decor is tragically modest. As I move to lower my arms, a golden glint reflects off the dark metal of the fire iron. I pivot my shoulders with cautious hope. There! Thin rays of dawn's light gleam through the drawn curtains. My body practically moves on its own. I march to the window and wrench the curtains open. Morning daylight fills the chamber. I'd never been happier to see the sun peeking over the mountains like an old friend. Though, the moment the curtain shifts, a small beige shape moves with it across the floor. A rat? I hate rats. I've always been scared of them. When I hop away from a shape, I observe how it doesn't continue to move. I bent to inspect it, using the fire iron for support. It's just a filled scrap of parchment, brown and frail with age. Yet, it is an unusual sight, considering how free of dirt and clutter the rest of the room is. Would you look at that? He's finally missed a spot. I suppose the vampire doesn't enjoy cleaning under the curtains, lest the sun sneak up on him unawares. I turn the paper over, noting the smudge of charcoal rubbing off on my thumb. Part of a larger drawing, maybe even one of those enormous portraits I'm sorely missing. I'm sure it's worthless, but no harm in holding on to it. Perhaps the vampire will appreciate my help in tidying up. I try and fail to hold back a yawn that makes my entire body shudder. The bloom of sunlight fixed in the sky, though refreshing to see, also serves as a reminder of how much time has passed, of how little sleep I've gotten. There won't be a better time to get some rest. I look about the chamber one final time. To be so surrounded by various furnishings is a mystifying sort of torture. Despite all those nights of sleeping on the ground have left me yearning for the comfort of a cushion, I know I can't sleep here. The vampire needs only to close the curtains to accost me in my sleep. Back outside I go. The days are long this time of year. I have plenty of time to try climbing the ledge when I'm awake. I grab a decorative pillow from a sofa. It's not much, but it'll make my cobblestone bed a little more bearable. I retrace my steps through the estate and practically collapse into the first ring of sunlight I find. I wake from a dreamless, restless slumber into the cold of evening. Sitting up with a jolt, I scan the sky with mounting dismay. Sundown again. Already, how could I have slept for so long? The clench and ache in my bones and blossoming bruises on my skin reveal the answers to my unspoken question. My stamina is spent. I won't be able to run the way I did yesterday. No, damn it. It feels like the very shadows are reaching for me, streaking across the ground like long claws. And speaking of claws, from the shade nearby, the vampire looks down at me with flat displeasure. My fingers curl instinctively around the fire iron. You're still here. On the ground, no less. Where else would I be? Why, I figured you would have climbed onto the roof, run some mental calculus to determine the best angle of approach, and then leapt into the moat to swim to freedom. A beat passes as I stare at him. Yeah, that would be very practical, but anyone who tries it would surely splatter against the rocky ledge below. Perhaps, and even if they made it to the water, they would discover the alligators in the moat. Alligators? Really? No. What the hell? I think I liked you more when you were menacing me about what crimes I'd committed. She dislikes the taste of her own medicine. Shocking. He folds his arms behind his back as he paces around me. I'm very aware that he can grab and drag me into the shadows if he so desires, but he's choosing not to. You never did tell me what you did to get sent here. You're right, I didn't. We stare at each other now, sharing an ugly pause. But I apologize for my behavior last night and for making a mess. Truly? He looks as though he's expecting a punchline. Yes, truly actually. I don't know what it's like to own an estate, but I'm sure it's dreadful having someone run through it. Indeed. Will you tell me what you're planning to do with my fire iron? What? This old thing? I could lie to him, but I see a little point in it. While I develop a skill for enthralling an audience with tall tales, it is not as if I can trick them into believing my stories are real. Unless they're children, of course. And the pacing vampire hasn't seemed terribly childlike thus far. In any case, I'm not a good liar. When one is not a good liar, honesty is by far the better policy. If you leapt at me, I would have tried to swing it at you. But I also thought I could use it as a handle to get over the ledge. I cannot begrudge you for your caution against me, but using a fire iron as a handhold? Really? The ledge is made of solid stone. It's old, isn't it? Right? Surely the stone has weathered down over the years. It most certainly has not. You would begrudge me for trying everything at my disposal? I might, if you ruined my fire iron in the process. You do not try such inventive tactics if you agree to barter with me. About that. I'll have you know I'm extremely well traveled. How informed are you about recent history and new discoveries throughout the world? What makes you think I'm interested in such things? You mentioned you were open to trading knowledge. I remember it like it was just yesterday. Every 2 years, I receive a new guest at my estate. Each guest has some capacity to tell me news of the outside world. I have previously offered their freedom in exchange, but hearing news of the outside world loses its appeal when one is not welcome to participate in it. But some men and women have nothing else to give. Surely you would not deprive this opportunity from a future guest when you have more to offer than this. My loot feels heavy against my back. What else can I offer that amounts to the piece of my freedom? I can't give it to you. He scoffs at me. Just when I thought you were seeing sense. But I may yet be as amenable as you have been to me. Last night, I hadn't fully understood that you play music as your primary profession. Not at first. My recent slew of guests have been cutthroats and highwaymen. I forget that I've also housed scientists and artists. I presume you must be good at your craft. As such, you need your loot more than I do. The sudden and unexpected empathy leaves me speechless. He takes my silence as permission to continue. I ought to also admit it has been a very long time since somebody has taught me no. It irritated me to hear, but it is within your right to say. Forgive me for making it seem otherwise. As if our cordial conversation hasn't been astonishing enough, the vampire inclines his head toward me. You're forgiven? But wouldn't everyone have fought you to the bitter end? I imagine there must have been several no's sprinkled in there. He chuckles wryly. We're properly bound and restrained. One's capacity to fight to the bitter end is quite limited. I expect this lends itself to making my guests more amenable to negotiation, and to giving me anything I should desire. Oh, he really wasn't expecting me to break free of my bonds. Enough of this matter. I propose we approach this from a new angle. What do you want, mortal? If freedom has no strong appeal for you, perhaps you'd be more interested in power. Immortality? I don't miss the saccharine way he says the last words. No, I'm fairly sure I do want freedom. I can't imagine what price I'd have to pay for the other two. My stomach growls. But I could do with some food. Food, even if I get out of here, the nearest village is miles away. I won't get far on an empty stomach. You would ask a vampire to feed you. A marvelous modest start to our negotiative relationship. Your empty stomach shall be filled. I should have a surplus of blood lying around here somewhere. I'm joking. I'm not so old that I've forgotten what mortals eat. Come with me. Well, that worked out so far. Not too bad. Not too bad. He begins to lead the way. I struggled to my feet, but have enough difficulty steadying myself that he pauses and turns to observe me. I end up using the fire iron to help me maintain my balance, like a metal walking stick. You look pitiful. I'm sure. My apologies for not being the picture of grace after a 9-day hike with slave-driving guardsmen. Now where exactly do you plan on taking me? The vampire is kind enough to slow his pace and walk with me in parallel tandem, though he stays in the shadows, and I in the waning light. You're astoundingly paranoid. I'm taking you somewhere I can feed you, like we agreed. You mean to feed on me, don't you? No. He said it with such disgust that I gape at him, taken aback. Oh, don't even begin to act offended. Have you looked at yourself? Filthy, dragged through prison cells and mud. Your taste most certainly will be foul. I bite back a retort about how I'm supposed to taste. More importantly, you're really not going to kill and eat me? Ever? Covered in muck as you are, I have no desire to touch you. You doubt me? I don't know. It sounds like you'll attack me the moment I'm clean. And I can't get a read on you. Maybe it's your fetish to lure your victims into a false sense of security. How easily you remark on a stranger's fetishes. Oh my. I had my suspicions that you were a traveler, but I'm certain now you could not have been raised in Alluvia. Ah, yes. Beautiful Alluvia, kingdom of ungrateful prudes. They don't appreciate me here at all. I'm quite certain they did not. You may have a seat and wait here, though I can't guarantee the chairs won't bite. Haha, very funny. He smirks a little at that, though he turns his fist to hide it. The kitchen is nearby. I won't be long. I caught a glimpse of his kitchen during my exploration last night. I noticed it was stocked with well-loved pans and utensils, but I never imagined that he meant he used them with any frequency. I expect you'll stay put, woefully wounded as you are. If you wander off and I can't find you, I'll have to deposit your meal into the moat. Very well. I'll tame my adventurous spirit for the time being. Wouldn't want your imaginary alligators to be fed in my place. You're catching on. Well done. True to his word, he returns in short order. He sets a tray loaded with roasted roots and grilled perch before me. A simple enough meal, but one of the most beautiful sights I've seen in recent memory. It's not a plate of blood. It is not. Shall I switch it out for you? No, I'll be quiet. This is fine. Thank you. I reach for a fork and slice into the fish, excited to savor my first meal in days. I take the first bite and... it's awful. Some of the prison slop tasted better than this burned, over-salted tragedy. Even stranger, I taste hints of cinnamon, garlic, and coffee? At this point, I have no idea what I'm eating, but I'm too hungry to stop. I must have outdone myself. Don't forget to breathe. Mortal needs air in their lungs, I hear. It is delicious, isn't it? My fork pauses against my lips. It's really not. This is one of the worst cooked fish I've had in my entire life. But It's better than starvation. The vampire regards me with an unreadable expression. His next words are as slow as they are measured. I've served more than 100 guests in my lifetime. Not a single one of them has described it as, I quote, better than starvation. Without constructive criticism, how will you improve? Surely you will not begrudge me for being honest. He watches me finish my next bite, eyes narrowed. No matter, I care not what you think. His lower lip is unmistakably jutted out into a small pout, but I don't get to see it for long. Now that I've given you a meal, you will now give me something I want in return. Why do you keep insisting on these trades? He shrugs his shoulders with a touch of derision. It's my nature. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. No service without a cost. Fine. Can I interest you in a song? He arches a brow and says nothing, but I can tell I've piqued his interest. I've seen your books. All technicality, no whimsy. It must have been some time since you last heard a compelling story. I shift my lute into my arms, strumming it once for intrigue. A tempting little preview. Very well, Bart. A song in exchange for the meal. I lower my gaze to my lute, heaving a sigh I didn't know I was holding. Good. I just have to play a single song. It's a simple request, one that I've fulfilled thousands of times over in several dozen taverns, but the thrill of anticipation is making my fingers jitter. Just yesterday, I was grimly certain that I would never perform again. Now I'm performing for the vampire who was supposed to tear me to shreds. I trace a fingernail over a single string. Then I pluck at each string sequentially, testing and tuning in turn. And then I begin to play. The vampire, who until now had a perpetual proclivity for pacing, slows, and pauses mid-step to watch me with his hands folded on a writing table. My voice turns into the best weapon I've ever wielded, stronger and sharper than any knife or fire iron. Notes trickle from my lungs, rush through my throat, and pour from my lips into a song that floods the room with a tale most forlorn. The ballad I've chosen starts melancholic. It follows a young man as life takes from him. His father is the first to be taken, life cut short by a plague. His betrothed the next, abandoning him for a wealthier man. When he's brutally mugged and left for dead, he feels as though his last remnants of peace have been torn to shreds. He finds himself alone, left behind, forgotten. His mind is swallowed whole by rage and grief and self-loathing until one day, he decides it's his turn to take. He takes the torch to the stables of his former betrothed. He takes a noble woman's heart with false oaths and pretty words. He takes the world by storm, molding it like wet sand to fulfill his every desire. When I finish the song, I offer the vampire a small bar. Throughout my entire performance, his gaze clung to me like a thorn, never once wavering from my body. What a wretched protagonist. You don't like it? It's one of my most requested ones. How baffling to hear that human men find inspiration in an egocentric finale. There's a version of the song with a female protagonist. It's not always requested by men. Another unexpected revelation. Although I found the song's message disagreeable, I will concede that you sung it well. Thank you. We lapse into a brief silence, not quite looking at each other. To my surprise, he's the one who speaks next. This estate. I often forget what it's like to have more than the son of my own thoughts and of cicadas crying in the night. With nothing to interrupt the passage of immortality, silence can be maddening. How much do you earn at this tavern of yours? How many songs did it take for you to afford an instrument of that quality? How many songs? I've never thought of it that way. It doesn't really work like that. I looked down at my lute, running my fingers over its surface. It was given to me, which means I never actually had to pay for it, but I don't need to share that with him. Sometimes I compose original songs on commission, which is more time-consuming, but affords me more gold. As for crowd work, a classic in a well-stocked bar on a good night would net several dozen coppers and a handful of gold. I suppose it amounts to 100 songs or so if I combine the two. Of course, saving up for an artisan instrument would take even longer. Yeah, 100 songs, you say? 100 songs over 100 nights, and I will ensure you have food, hygiene, and eventual safe passage from the estate. hygiene? But if I'm clean, you want to suck my blood. That you can be clean in the day and dirty yourself up in the night if it pleases you. Do what you will. His words hang in the air between us like a haze. Despite the numerous opportunities he's had to hurt me, he hasn't laid a hand on me all night. If my safety really is guaranteed, it is a tempting deal to take. Besides, it's not like I have many other options. Just some songs and you'll let me go? You won't try to steal my loot while I sleep? You would take me for a common thief? How dare you? Such an appalling accusation when you can clearly see I still have all my fingers. The vampire raises his hands for me to see. The familiarity of the gesture is uncanny. It seemed to me that a powerful vampire like you can recover from serious wounds in an instant. You could once have been amputated at the elbow for all we know. And speaking of vampires, I seem to recall a legend that suggests your kind can't cross running water. Which means you can't leave either, can you? I'm curious to know what crime you committed to be sent here. Enough. I await your song tomorrow. He stands to leave. Goodbye. Good night, sweet prince. Don't let the bed bugs bite. I hope you see me in your nightmares. Don't let the bed bugs bite. You realize I'm not going to sleep. I just no longer wish to be in your company. Then I hope the bed bugs do bite you. You're welcome. Keep speaking that way and there may be more biting than you bargained for, mortal. I clamp my mouth shut. He strides to the nearest window. I'm gone. Poof. Like before, he erupts into mists and takes off into the night in the shape of a bat. But this time, he's left me with a half-finished plate of unsourced fish. Well, what a not successful dinner that was. But we will continue this next time. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I will see you all next time. Take care. Goodbye.